Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we stick family photos to the fridge with our new Joy-Cons. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with ya. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I have joined, as I'm always joined, by my co-host, Conner McCabe. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including new rumors about the Switch 2. And then on Thursday, Mark and I are going to be going through our backlogs. But in the meantime, please welcome podcaster, actor, writer, developer, our good friend, Conner McCabe is here.
Patrick, it's so good to be back. Thank you for having me. I was wondering, as we were going through the wind-up for the show,
Yeah.
I know I've been on the show more than 3 times, but am I a 3-time news episode person? I know this is it for sure not the first.
This is for sure not the first.
It could be the third.
It might be the third.
And you know what? I guess we're going to have to... I'm leaving you something to debug on your next podcast.
Yeah. Well, so this is really... This sounds to me like it is a good thing for our listeners to look into and then jump into the Discord and let us know. How many times has Conner hosted the news with me before? Just a me and Conner news episode.
Yes, please look that up. It's gonna anytime I feel my name even being typed anywhere.
Yeah, you love
it. It feels good.
Yeah, your little smile creeps across your face. I think Mogi's probably still got you beat for most guest appearances.
Great, as that should always stay the case. Yes.
Right. We have to respect Mogi's record.
Yes. I mean, there's few people I respect more. Period.
Well, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's just the utmost respect to Ryan Mogi.
Exactly.
And we're not afraid of her like we are Greg Smith.
No. Oh, and I am afraid of him.
I got a text from Greg Smith over the weekend that said, to me and Mark, that just said, is your email address Nintendo Cartridge Society @gmail.com? And are you part of a network or are you independent? And I was like, what? No context.
Yes.
I answered his question, and then he didn't respond back.
A, you were like, well, I know you don't listen to the show because then you would definitely know the email by heart. Or maybe it was a polite double check. And B, are you recruiting for some network?
I don't know. Or was he possibly like putting us down as a reference?
Oh, sure.
Like, I don't know. I don't know. He did not elaborate.
Well, listeners, we're giving you more stuff to do. Harass Greg on the internet. Let's
no
find out
one
what this
harass
was about.
Greg. And again, not that we're afraid of him, because we're not.
No, definitely not.
But look, instead of harassing Greg, what you can do on the internet is you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where if you are supporting us at the 8-bit or 16-bit levels, you can get access to our once-a-month episodes of miniseries. We are currently making our way through NCS Arcade. We are... For the month of April, and I know April's basically over now. For the month of April, we are playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2. That episode will come out in early May. Because it's a trick of scheduling.
That's how it goes.
Mark's out of town.
Yeah, what are we supposed to do?
We're just going to wait a little bit, and then you'll get Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
You know, as someone who is a Patreon supporter, as I will pat myself on the back, it is a format that I really enjoy. The NCS Arcade is so much fun. Whether I'm participating in playing the game like I did Minish Cap to listen to the episode, or if it's something that I don't play, but I'm like, I want to listen to my guys talk about a game because I like what they have to say about stuff. It's am I selling this right now?
You are, yeah, I think you are.
Truly, it's great, and I subscribe at a tier so high that I don't even know what tier you get that at.
Conner subscribes at the $150,000 a month tier.
Yes, I'm in debt, and it's worth it.
Yeah. And we appreciate you.
But anyway, just to say, great stuff over there on the Patreon, especially NCS Arcade.
Thank you, Conner. It's so hard when you make any bit of Patreon content, because you're like, this goes out to so few people, and the people who the episodes are going out to are like appreciative and want to be part of like the thing anyway. So like it's hard. It feels like it's hard to get feedback on it.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. That is very
You're
nice.
Very welcome
to hear. If you would like to give us feedback of any kind, you can hop into the Discord. If you are not already in the Discord, email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com, and we will send you an invitation. You can hop right in there. And look, at some point, Nintendo's got to announce something about this new dang old Switch. And when it does, we're going to be popping off in there. It'll be the best place to talk about it. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, 100%. As much as I would want to chat on my own Discord about it, I know where the best conversation's going to be.
I do like it when like a Nintendo thing happens because
Yes.
look, the Super NPC Radio Discord is also a great place to hang out. How do people get into that, Connor?
You can DM me or at Super NPC Radio wherever you are on social media, and I'll send you a link.
And that's a great place to discuss games and stuff like that. But as soon as it like gets a little too Nintendo-y, I can feel us all like migrating over to the NCS Discord.
Yes, absolutely. I might do like a courtesy like, hey, did you see this link in our like video game news general tab? But I'm like, I gotta see what the NCS heads have to say.
Yeah, because we got something to say.
Exactly.
Basically every time.
Yeah.
Connor, I, of course, have my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle source book that's out there. Issues 1 and 2 are on stands right now. If you are interested in pre-ordering issue 3, it comes out June 5th. So get your pre-orders in. Connor, before we get into like the meat of the show, is there anything you want to plug real quick up front?
Sure. I mean, I'll probably plug it at the end.
Yep.
But if you have listened to the show and heard me, then you'll know I also have a video game podcast. Call Me by Your Game. It's a show where I bring on someone to hear from them about a meaningful game from a particular moment in their life. It's really specific to like the context of when, you fell in love with Super Mario Land 2 or Dead Rising. So if you haven't listened to the show...
That's the example of the episode I was on.
It is. The first time we ever podcasted together.
True. Kind of the first time we actually had a conversation.
I think that 100% that was it. Yeah. Very brave on your part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you've listened to the show, you've heard me, you see me in the Discord, and you've never listened to the podcast, give it a shot. You might like it.
Yeah. It's a wonderful show. Connor does a great job of getting guests on who aren't like inundated with video games that have very interesting perspectives on the games that they want to talk about. And you're so good at like opening the door for people to talk about their lives and stuff like that.
Thank you.
It's a special little show, Connor.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
You are welcome. A debug before we get into what we've been playing. And it's maybe not a debug, but I'm classifying it as such. Last week, when we got to the new releases, I was like, oh, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Wrath of the Mutants. I can't deal with another Turtles thing in my head right now, but I'll check that out at some point. I was confusing this with the Splintered Fate or whatever it is that's coming out later, the Hades-like Ninja Turtles game. This is a game like a beat-em-up based on the rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, which I've never seen any of, so I don't have a particular affinity for this game. I am not interested in it. I apologize if I projected enthusiasm onto a product that I'm not interested in.
Forgiven.
Connor, thank you so
You're
much.
Welcome. And I do speak for everyone.
All right, let's get into what we've been playing this week. Okay, so Connor, I just want to one thing like right off the bat.
Please.
Is I was at C2E2 in Chicago this weekend, and I was there with 3 buds, and we were walking around the show floor having a great time. My buddy Delaney was like, I saw some arcade machines. Let's go play some arcade machines.
Oh, yeah.
And the 4 of us got around an NBA Jam cabinet, 4-player, and did 2-on-2. We played a whole game. Which, by the way, did you realize that you had to put in more quarters to play each quarter of the game?
This is news to me as someone who only has played like the SNES or Genesis versions.
And that's mostly what I had played too, where the Super NES version. And they were all on free play, so like all you have to do is like go down there and like push the button.
Sure.
But it's outrageous. Like every single quarter, if you want to keep playing, everyone has to put in a quarter.
Just make it $1.
Just make it $1.
Yeah.
In fact, it was probably 50 cents.
Yeah. Goodness.
In any event, I had the best time playing NBA Jam on an arcade cabinet with my 3 friends.
Like fully, like all space is filled out by a person.
Yes.
4 person NBA Jam is probably what I could have said first.
Yeah, sure.
That's amazing. So you did one game, 2-on-2.
Yeah.
And what was the matchup here? Who were the teams?
So we were Bulls Celtics.
What a matchup.
And I was on the Bulls. I was Pippen.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny, in every arcade machine, or every NBA Jam arcade machine, it'll say like, this team is the most popular in this at this location. And we were at C2E2. Of course, the Bulls were the most popular team at this location. Especially for an NBA Jam era, audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was playing as Scottie Pippen. You
know? Goodness.
But so yeah, it was just super fun. It's amazing how I know still how to dunk and like do all the stuff in that game that you can do.
So this is one that you have experience with, to where like the sort of riding a bike muscle memory
absolutely.
came back.
I mean, but I don't think I'd ever played it in the arcade before. I was just like my Super Nintendo instincts kicking in. But yeah, it was great. I had the best time playing NBA Jam.
May I say?
Yeah.
He's on fire?
Yeah, and I got there once. I got to on fire one time.
3 shots in a row?
It's 3 shots in a row, yeah.
Okay. I haven't played. I played a little bit of, the earlier, whether it was NBA Jam or Tournament Edition growing up. But my NBA Jam was the NBA Jam like revival that came out on the Wii.
On the Wii?
Did you play this?
I played it a little bit. My friend Taylor had it.
I love this game. You got to use the motion controls as far as like you would flick up to start your player's jump and you would flick forward to do the jump shot. So it was pretty satisfying.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Like, kind of like you're shooting.
I was just doing that with the microphone. I wonder if it read it all.
Yeah. Oh, I think it definitely did.
Yeah.
But it was a fantastic game, and I just played just as much of that as I could.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I wonder, do you still have that?
Yes.
Cool. We should play it sometime.
100%.
Yeah.
I would love that. And how did the game go? I didn't ask. I don't think.
The Bulls won.
Huge.
Led largely by me. No offense to Michael Delaney, but he was not pulling his weight. He would frequently shoot when he did not mean to shoot.
Oh, Delaney.
From downtown. And then I played some other games, but I want to do your games first.
Sure. I'm playing a few things right now, but my me time game has been a game we've talked about a little bit, and that is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Where are you now in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Connor?
I am at the end of Chapter 9. Would you? And I think over text I told you I am in the Gongaga region.
Yes, because you said to me, I don't know if you remember Gongaga, and I was like, do I remember Gongaga?
It's one of, and I realized once I hit a few story beats there, I was like, oh, this is why one could not forget Gongaga. A reason I won't spoil at this moment. But I'm there. I'm about 51 hours into the game. My PlayStation 5 is telling me I'm about 60% through the game as well. And I really can't get enough of it. As much as I've complained on other shows about how I do think it is bloated. There's so much stuff in the game. I still interact with all the bloat, and every little thing that they add, I try at least once, if not play to death. And it's so well made. All the little games are fun. You've probably heard about Queen's Blood. You probably played
I played Queen's.
Yes.
I am in chapter 3 at the moment.
Okay.
My characters are in the Mithril mines. They have fought some of the Turks and now have been separated for the second time. But now this is the time you actually get to play as Barrett and Red 13, like down in the gorge. So that's where I am. And so when Queen's Blood was introduced to me, I was like, am I going to be like actually doing this? And then like I played Queen's Blood, lost, played again, lost, and was like, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yes.
And like took a minute or two to like understand how the game was played, and then I beat everyone in calm at Queen's Blood and was like, okay, everyone with a deck of cards is going to fall before me.
Yes.
Because it's fun to do.
It's become one of those things where when I enter a new city or an area, I'm opening up the map, and even if I'm not thinking about it, if I see that little level marker by
you get a rush.
Oh yeah, and I'm heading straight for that that person. But overall, my thoughts are that I'm really loving it, and I don't get a ton of time to play it. So if I have like free evenings or some time on the weekend, I try to sit down and do that. But yeah, love Rebirth.
Can I speak to the bloat for a second?
Please.
Because this was an issue with Final Fantasy VII Remake as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Oh.
But Remake is just a smaller game overall, so like there is a ton of bloat, but it feels less egregious, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like the bloat is the point. Like one of the big themes of Final Fantasy VII is Cloud finding his identity in this world of like excesses, right? And like in a world where you are making up your identity based on like your friends and the world is being drilled for all of its life force. How do you decide what's important to you and what you value? And so the new Final Fantasy VII is like, we're going to give you everything. You have to decide what's important to you.
Yes.
And so the excesses of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to me are thematically linked to the story of Final Fantasy VII.
That's a compelling thought about it in an argument.
It could still mean that it's too bloated.
It could, yeah. But I hadn't considered that before. And like I've said, I interact with all of it. I enjoy almost every little thing they throw at me. I want to do a lot of. And to the game's credit, as far as I can tell, it's not mandatory, and it doesn't really gate you level wise,
right,
from what I can tell either. So. But
well, and so much of that like will also like scale to wherever you are. So like, yeah.
So it's fine.
Yeah.
But that's really all I had to say about that game. I've got two more that I wanted to highlight. I've been replaying the original Bioshock, which because you've tuned in to some streams.
A couple times, yeah.
We're playing this for Super NPC Radio's a weekly games club where we play through a game in a book club style format, and episodes come out every Friday. So
on Patreon, the first one is available for freezies on the free feed right now. If you're interested in checking out what that coverage sounds like,
bingo.
And there are a good cast of NPC characters on there talking about Bioshock.
Thank you. Yeah, if you scroll back in the Call Me by Your Game feed, you'll see that first episode there. But I've been playing through that, and I find that in these games club formats, because I'm like taking notes for episodes, I'm paying much more attention. And while it's not a perfect game and I have issues with the way that it does some things, I'm really appreciating it for what it is. You've played it before? No, you've never played it.
I've never played it, no.
Yes.
I played a little bit of Infinite.
Yes.
But that's it. It seems to me like you are having a great time with it, except for some hacking things that come up.
Which is funny because the hacking... like there's a hacking mini game for the listener out there in this game where anytime you're interacting with a machine, you have the option to hack it in certain states, which ends up just being a fun sort of like tile puzzle game.
Yeah, except sometimes it cannot be beaten.
Yes, that's my big issue is that like I like the challenge, I like that I have to move quick, but there are times in the game where you just can't beat them without certain upgrades. And that is frustrating.
It's like, why does it even let you try?
I don't know. It's weird. Yeah. You're just going to lose, period.
Yeah.
So...
You know who'd never do that to you? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
It would I know that to be so true. But I am enjoying revisiting that game a lot. And then the other one is actually a Nintendo game, finally. Whoop. And that is Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. Patrick, I've been hitting the links.
Wow.
Been out there.
And this is the GameCube?
This is the GameCube one, which the majority of my Mario Golf experience was with Mario Golf for the Nintendo 64. I believe the first official Mario sports game. I believe it came out before Tennis did.
Whoa.
Owned that as a kid. It's now on Switch Online. When I started playing the GameCube version, I was like, this is really good. It seems to me like it's not as big of a jump as I would have thought from N64 to GameCube, considering all the leaps in technology between those consoles. And then I played a round of the N64 on Switch Online, and
you remembered?
I was reminded. Actually, this one's like not near as polished as the GameCube version. Yeah. And if anyone has a copy of that game or can emulate it or get their hands on it, high recommend as a golf game. It's fun. I've been playing with my girlfriend Amanda and our friend Steven. We'll just like play like a front 9 or a full 18.
Yeah.
We're all helping each other on what we think the right like shot approach is. It's been so much fun. The only criticism I have with this game so far is that on extremely close putts that are within 3.5 meters.
Yeah.
Have you played this before?
No.
Okay, I thought maybe it was coming back to you.
Uh-uh.
Putts that are so close that they're essentially gimmies, or like you would barely tap the ball to put in,
Right.
Are extremely difficult because when the meter starts, because you're pressing A essentially twice on a putt, A to
Right.
start and A to stop to measure a certain distance. It's basically impossible to press it quick enough to get under 3.5 meters. So like if I've had,
that's a bummer.
It's really frustrating, and it doesn't always screw us, but there have been probably every other time we play, one of us on a hole will be within like inches of it and just screw up our putt because there's no reaction time that's going to make it work. You can't actually. I do not think you can input quick enough.
Why isn't there then just like a gimme putt?
I wonder the same thing.
There should just be a gimme putt.
I had one the other day where I had such a nice chip onto the green that my ball was literally hanging over the hole, and I was like, I really have to putt this in?
Yeah, how?
Other than that, truly phenomenal game that I love to play, whether it's by myself or with friends. Yeah, couldn't recommend it. It's like just so well made.
And have you played like any of the newer Mario Golf games? Are you a fan of like the series? I know obviously I have experience with the 64 version, but like, is this a series that you are like otherwise engaged with?
Not too much, actually. I do own a Game Boy Color copy of the Game Boy Color game, which is more of an RPG, like the tennis Game Boy Color.
Right.
Very simple, much more of like a golf story style, like
like an overhead view.
Yeah. I played a bit of Super Rush when it came out. Friend brought it over, and a bunch of us were playing. I enjoyed the like Super Rush part of the game, but
you're all like running around together.
Yes.
And
that was actually a game that I pre-ordered, and after seeing reviews for it and hearing people talk, I canceled a pre-order.
Wow.
I do, however, have a Mario Golf Super Rush tag that is on my actual golf clubs.
I love that.
Yeah, Jeremy Schmidt, friend of the show, gave it to me. But yeah, that's probably a lot more than we needed to hear about Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, but amazing game as far as I'm concerned.
So to loop back around to the other games that I've been playing this week,
Yes.
on my travels, I did not bring my Switch with me. Instead, I brought my Analog Pocket. A system that I have had now for months and been like, I'll get to it. I want to play it badly, but I simply have no brain space right now. And there were two things that I really wanted to do with the Analog Pocket. One was to download and emulate all the Game & Watch games.
Yes.
And two was to play your copy of Mother 3.
Yes.
And let me tell you that, first of all, I could not figure out how to put these Game & Watch games because like you need to like upload the assets to like a thing that builds the ROMs for you or something.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make sense to you?
Only because I have tried to basically get other console emulators on that thing, and just to get the Super Game Boy on my Pocket, which seems redundant, but I had a reason for it. And that itself...
Hey, I get it.
Yeah, thank you. That itself was challenging enough for me, so I can imagine this was a headache.
Yeah, it was a huge headache, and I never figured it out. So I have yet to play a single Game & Watch game. If anyone can point me to an easy resource on how to do this, throw it in the Discord.
Are we on Game & Watch now?
We are officially on Game & Watch now. Okay. So if we want to make a game of it, it can be the Game & Watch, or the Game & Watch game is what it would be. But so, yes, if anyone has that, let me know. I was frustrated for like an hour straight and then didn't do anything with it. But I did finally start Connor's copy of Mother 3.
I got a little tease about this before we did the show, folks, and I got to say, I'm so excited.
I'm not super far.
Cool.
Is the game hard?
Are
the fights difficult?
Yes.
Okay.
Because there is if you might have noticed, there is a timing element, or do you not know the timing element?
No, I don't know about the timing element.
Okay, this is something that this is one criticism I have of this game that otherwise I frickin' adore.
Yeah.
There is a timing element to each battle where different enemies that you encounter will have different music that will play, and there's a certain beat that as you do like regular attacks, that you can time and continue to string together attacks to the beat.
What?
They don't even give you I don't think they give you a tutorial. on
Okay,
this.
okay. So every now and then I will see that like I hit with like a second hit.
Yes.
And that's because like as the attack stuff is going on, I'm like tapping in rhythm.
Yes.
What?
I can try to show you before I head out today.
Yes.
Because it also, even knowing that, it took me a lot to get the hang of, and I never perfected it, but by the, getting into the game a decent amount, I was able to string together the full amount of 16.
Whoa.
It's pretty cool, but you kind of do need that to really succeed.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you'll get there.
I'm even finding like early in the game here, that like I'll be killed by, like I'll enter a new space and they'll be like, oh, here's some like new enemies. And I'll fight one and I'll be like, oh boy, that was like kind of a close call. Heal up and then like fight a second one and it kills me. And I'm just like, oh, geez, it's just tougher than I was expecting it to be. But if I can string together some attack combos, maybe that's what I need to be doing.
I think that will really help. But to affirm you a little bit here, quite like the beginning of Earthbound, this game is very difficult, and I found myself like retreating and healing and going back so often. But sometimes you get in a place in certain dungeons where you don't have that option. Like, do you know where you are?
I'm still in the first chapter.
Okay, cool.
So I'm still, the dad. Their mother has it's already happened.
Yes.
Right. The children are the older of the two children have like gone off to try and kill the. Oh, so I'm fighting the like mecha
T-Rex.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yes.
And I've not been able to beat it yet.
Yeah.
But it's so like the thing that I'm finding right now as like a tough like push and pull is that while I'm fighting it, I'm using items to heal myself, right? And then when I die and it spawns me back again, all my items are gone because I just used them all. And I'm like, well, now I'm not going to save. I got to like turn it off, turn it back on, and go back with all those items again. But so yeah, there's a like push and pull here where I'm like, this game is like tricky, and I got to like figure out what it's doing. But if there's a rhythm thing, then that's I need to master that.
There might even be some like YouTube guide that like that sort of maps out the rhythm for each song, because some of them I think are kind of they're fairly intuitive as far as what that rhythm is, and other songs are like, wait, what's this rhythm? Is it slow? Is it quick? So
yeah.
But hey, I'm glad you're giving it a shot.
Can I just express how? And I'm not just giving it a shot. Like I'm gonna play this game. I'm playing this game.
I'm just protecting my heart.
I know you
for when you don't want to play it.
I sort of cannot. So there are a couple things happening. It is obviously in that like Game Boy Advance 16/32-bit pixel graphic art style, which a lot of modern indie RPGs have like taken on that style now. And there's. When modern games do it, I feel like they do it with a lot more detail to the graphics, especially in the background. And there's a lot of like repeated tiles in Mother 3, but I think that gives it like an air of authenticity that these other ones don't have.
Yeah.
Where you're like, that's a little too artsy for what's happening here. It doesn't need to be that expressive. It can just be a mountainside and like let me project my own feelings onto it. So I think in that way, like it has a leg up on modern games that ape the style. But also the sprites are so expressive. I can't get over it. There's a moment here where a character's wife is revealed to be murdered, and he like loses his mind and like assaults some of the townspeople. And I was like, oh my God, like it's just a little sprite doing this.
They really do a lot, whether it's like body language or just action.
It's like really striking and wonderful. And like,
I think that'll stay pretty consistent throughout.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, I was really excited to see stuff like that, because you just don't like see, even in something like the, Super NES Final Fantasies, like they do some emoting with those characters and with those itty bitty sprites, but like not even close to what they're doing in Mother 3.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying it, and I will I will keep playing it.
Very cool.
All right, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week. But actually, first we got to do a little point out something that came out last week. We got new games on the NSO Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack for the Nintendo 64, Extreme G and Iggy's Reckin Balls.
had never heard of either of these games.
Hey, Connor, me neither.
But I will, and that's not a negative thing.
Yep.
I will say, seeing this, I was like, this is the kind of stuff that I actually would love to be on.
Yes.
The NSO, other things too, but I was like, I've never heard of these. Maybe they're good. I'll give them a shot.
And that is like what every time there's like a weird Japanese game that we're like, what is this? Why are they putting it on here? I also have that reaction, but then I have the second follow-up reaction of like, well, now I get to try something I've never tried before.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost me anything extra. It's just there. It doesn't hurt me at all.
Yeah.
It does make me say, where's Diddy Kong Racing and where's Donkey Kong 64 and all that kind of stuff. But like, I don't know. I have yet to check these out. I have not been home to play, and I'm not going to play without the Nintendo 64 controller. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking them out.
Me too. A couple things were striking. Well, Iggy's Wrecking Balls. Perfect.
Reckin.
Reckin. Sorry, Reckin. There is an apostrophe after
There-
that N and no
there
G.
is. Mhm.
That actually looked kind of fun to me. And Extreme G. I didn't look this up. I probably could have before the podcast. It looked extremely pod racer in both its UI
Yes, great
and its
point.
gameplay.
Yes.
I don't know if the characters explode if they hit a rock at too
And
fast
they
of
go,
a velocity.
"Rawr!"
Yeah. But I was just the UI, especially how like the character was gaining more velocity and using more power in their engine, was just so reminiscent of that.
And also like seems very F-Zero-y.
Totally.
In that regard.
Yes.
Yeah, these are both games I'm going to check out. And love that they are putting. I just wish I had any understanding of what this schedule is. I've graphed everything that's come out on this service, and I don't have any answers for anyone.
It's very confusing.
It's very confusing. What do you make of a double drop that they did to Nintendo 64 games?
I like the previous dilemma. I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
And why there are probably so many games like these that I don't know why we aren't getting 2 of these a month.
Sure.
Or whatnot.
Yeah.
But it was strange that it was just these. No other NSO consoles received drops, did they?
Well, that is true, but Nintendo 64 usually gets its updates on its own.
Okay.
Just like the GBA usually gets its updates on its own. The Super NES, Game Boy, and NES tend to get updates together. But yeah, for whatever reason, the Plus expansion pack ones are sort of like on their own.
It's such a slow time that we're getting 2 N64 games at the same time. That'll really...
Okay, guys, I think we're going to put out just Extreme G. The fans will riot. Iggy's Wrecking Ball's got to go on there.
It has to.
But now to the new releases, the actual new releases for this week. On Tuesday, April 30th, Braid, the Anniversary Edition, comes out. We were talking about this a couple weeks ago, in that we were like, oh, it was delayed from where it was originally going to come out, because there are 40 additional levels that have been added to Braid.
On top of how many original levels? Because that seems like...
It seems like there were only 40 levels in the original.
Yeah.
I wonder if a level is a puzzle piece.
Yes. Perhaps.
That's sort of my thought.
Okay.
Because then there would be, because I think there's only really like 5 or 6 levels in the original game,
yes.
right? But maybe a dozen puzzle pieces in each one.
That makes sense.
But even still, that means it's like, I don't know, like a bunch new content.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to try to wrap my head around those mind-bendy puzzles.
Are you going to try to recreate, your early LA experience with a cooler and a sleeping bag?
A cooler and a sleeping bag in an otherwise empty apartment, with the TV, of course, propped up on the cooler itself, so I could play. No, I don't think I'm gonna.
Okay, just figured I'd check.
I don't think I will. And then on Thursday, Connor, Endless Ocean Luminous comes out. Thursday, May 2nd. This is sort of the big Nintendo release for April. See, Nintendo does it too. Their big April release coming out in May. So they're just like NCS Arcade. Do you have any experience with the Endless Ocean franchise?
No experience and nothing that's really drawing me in, I'll say. But I do remember seeing this in that, I think it was the
partner showcase. Yeah. In February.
How about yourself?
I don't have any experience with it other than like just like I know I've seen people playing it, and I know it from its reputation. I am of course honor bound to buy everything that Nintendo publishes, which Endless Ocean Luminous falls into that bucket. So I'm picking it up on Thursday, and I'm going to explore the deep sea. If anyone else is playing, this is one of those games that you can do like dives together. And I think that would be fun to do with some listeners. So
Discord,
we'll get that organized in the Discord. And so yeah, that could be fun. I don't really see anything else interesting coming out this week.
No, the only thing that and I could have highlighted this before, is I would just want to point out that there's several Freddy Fish games coming out. The
there
collection,
are,
and then 2 individual games.
Yeah, so Freddy Fish 5, The Case of the Creature of Coral Cove, and Freddy Fish 2, The Case of the Haunted Schoolhouse, are and the Freddy Fish collection. I mean, those are titles that are compelling to me.
I grew up loving Humongous Entertainment games, mostly the sports titles.
Oh, these are Humongous games.
They are.
Oh, Connor.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I never owned a Freddy Fish, a Putt Putt, a Spy Fox, a Pajama Sam, but I did play these games at a friend's house growing up, just poking around. But if you like point and click adventures, they're fairly charming, especially if a listener out there has kids. It might be a great game for them.
The title, The Case of the Creature of Coral Cove, has too many prepositions in it. It's so hard to read.
It does. They're like, how many C's can we fit in this thing?
That's another problem. All right, Connor, those are the new releases. Let's close that out. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So for the duration of one performance, 433, Connor and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Connor, today we're going to be talking about making pasta, but not like when you like take a class at like the Culinary Institute and like press some like dough through a machine to make pasta, but making pasta from the box.
Yes. Thank you for indulging me on this subject.
Thank you for suggesting a subject.
I mean, I have so many thoughts on it. I intended to make pasta tonight from the box. Technically, actually from the bag. I got this pappardelle.
A little bit better.
Pasta. I'd love to think so.
I do think so.
And when making pasta, I just struggle so much at that point of not boiling it too much, of keeping it on a good time, of measuring the right amount of water for a set amount of pasta. Do you have any tips or tricks that you'd like to share today, or just like your methodology for if and when you make pasta?
Yeah, so we do make pasta. We will do like a fair amount of like fresh pasta where it's like in the like a stuffed pasta, like something that's like in the bag like that, where you got to keep it in the fridge. It's not shelf stable, so we will do that. But also just when making like regular pasta, there was an Italian restaurant in my hometown of Kenosha, Wisconsin called Pasta El Dante, and that drilled into me that like El Dante is like the way to always do the pasta. So like whatever the lowest, like they express a range, boil for 7 to 9 minutes. If you reach all the way to 7 minutes, you've gone too long as far as I'm concerned. So like always really under, like aiming for underdone. And then just like a lot of cooking, you got to like taste it as you go.
Yes.
And like the second it seems like this one's good, then you pull them all out.
Okay.
And throw them in the strainer, toss them in like some olive oil or whatever to get them like separated. You don't want them to be sticky. Get them to cool down to stop cooking, but probably don't rinse them unless they say to rinse them. But yeah, that's most of my methodology for that.
That's great stuff. I might start to lean on the side of the lower end of the cooking time.
Always do that.
Yeah.
Because you want a little bit firmer pasta. Like it's just a more satisfying experience. Otherwise it's mush.
And I don't want the mush.
You don't want mush.
So anyway, I think I'll do that. But we were talking earlier about not needing pasta sauce, and we were going into like an olive oil sort of situation.
Yeah, well, so just now when but I mean, there are some things about like if you're just making like a spaghetti or something like that, that like you don't really need to overthink it. if you've got like some butter and Parmesan cheese, like that can be killer.
That sounds
right?
good. Yeah.
And if you've got like some cherry tomatoes you can throw on there, some like fresh basil, like you'll make like a killer little dish that doesn't need to have like a marinara sauce of any kind.
Yes.
Also, like you can, if you ever just keep like canned tomatoes in your house, you can turn that into a sauce pretty easily.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got do you have like a blender?
No.
Okay, well then I'm going to suggest buying buying an expensive blender.
Perfect.
And then you'll never need to buy jars of sauce ever again. No, I mean we use jars of sauce too, because it's just easier.
Yeah.
But like, oh no, I guess we'll never know.
I guess we'll never know.
Connor, have you ever made pesto?
Not personally.
It's so easy. You need like basil and olive oil and like nuts, usually pine nuts, but you can do it with like cashews or whatever. And then like salt and pepper, and then you can just like have fresh pesto, which is also like just another like easy way to have a not sauce from the jar.
Yes.
That's a little more time intensive though, and probably not what you were.
It's not, but it makes me want to make pesto.
It's so good and so easy, and I didn't say garlic, but put garlic in there too.
Okay.
Because it's delicious. All right, we were accompanied today by the EBU Your Radio Orchestra. Connor, let's get into the news. Rumor time / leak time. Wee-oo, wee-oo, wee-oo. A bunch of new rumors are circulating online about what to expect from the next generation of Nintendo hardware. A lot of this comes from leaks within manufacturers and stuff like that, and appears to jive with what industry insiders have been hearing from their own sources. As always, none of this is gospel. These are leaks / rumors. But here we go. Connor, let's talk about these. First of all, have you been ear to the ground paying attention to what's going on in the leak circle here?
More ear like near the ground.
Right.
So while preparing,
the ground is dirty.
Yes, and I don't want to take another shower.
No.
Nor a bath. I've when preparing for the show, a few of these items here were familiar to me, but
yes.
I'm not locked in like some.
So I have copied the summary here from Dalton Cooper's piece on Game Rant. Just wanted to shout out that as where exactly I'm getting this language from. Also, Dalton Cooper, that guy has like 2 different Mad Men names.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first item of interest is the Bluetooth chip of the Switch 2 still supports existing Joy-Con and Pro controllers and still features HD vibration. So good to know that the controllers that we have now will, in some capacity, still work on the next Switch.
Yes, the only thing sticking out to me about that, and this might be having to do with some other rumors, is that we're not seeing that they will specifically the existing Joy-Con will clip to this new Switch,
right,
but that they are compatible.
Yes. Let's actually.
Is that later?
Yeah, we'll jump down.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's all good because we're bringing things together organically. Another piece or another bullet point here is the new Joy-Cons are larger and are magnetically attached to the console with an electromagnet. The SL and RL buttons are metallic now, and there's a new button behind each Joy-Con, location where the button is. I don't know what that means. And a new button below the home button on the right Joy-Con. So that, so we got a couple different button layouts, and that the Joy-Con now are magnetically connected to the Switch 2 instead of on those rails.
That is incredibly interesting because A, I want to see it in action.
Yes.
And B, how will I choose to detach when I want to, or will I have that choice? I'm sure I will.
I mean, this is a great question because, like, how strong could the magnets be that, like, it won't feel like you're accidentally pulling them off all the time?
Yeah, like, is there going to be some sort of gesture, or like maybe that's one of what the additional buttons that they're referring to
is like a release
will
button?
do. So I better not press it accidentally,
right?
If it exists at all.
It's just like, I remember one of like my early fears, or like if someone has like a Switch where like the Joy-Con rail has gotten like a little warped or whatever, that like it can feel like a sort of flimsy thing all put together. And I just wonder how well a magnetic connection is going to like do that.
Yeah, that will be. Yeah, and is that an upgrade? I mean, it could be cool in theory, but is that
Right.
an upgrade over the existing technology as far as just the practical usability of it? I guess.
Right. Well, and also like if you're using like strong enough electromagnets to hold these things in place, how are you also not in danger of like messing up the electronics?
It's a
Right?
great question. If I was more of a scientist, I'd tell you.
We don't know.
No.
We don't know for science.
But it is really interesting, and it's kind of amazing to me that we've got such, again, this rumors not
Yep.
gospel, but assuming that there's truth to this, there's just so much known about this console that we just haven't heard. I can't believe how much we
Sure. Or how much
in
we
quotes
think we know.
think we
Yeah.
know. Yes, at this point,
Yeah.
knowing
Especially compared to what Nintendo has said, which is not even that they're working on new hardware.
yeah.
Which
Those fools.
And look, we will feed off these scraps that we find for ourselves
Yes.
Until Nintendo decides to offer us a full meal. But yeah, it's crazy. I'm gonna hit a couple more bullet
Please.
points here. Switch 2 has backwards compatibility with Switch 1 cartridges, but Switch 2 cartridges will be different and won't fit in the Switch 1. So that's just like the transition from the DS to the 3DS. You could use DS cartridges in the 3DS, but the 3DS itself had the carts had a little like nub on them, and so they wouldn't fit into physically wouldn't fit into an old DS.
Yes.
Which is funny because like why not let them fit and then just not run?
I was just as you brought that up, I was wondering the same question. Maybe they're like, we don't want some lawsuit about someone's 3DS game got stuck in their 2DS. Who knows? But that is at least a bit of encouraging news here.
Yeah.
On the carts. Gives at least some. I mean, I don't know. I guess credibility to the hope that of backwards compatibility for some software, if not
Yeah.
amount.
I mean, it seems like if this is something that we can assume is actually true, then I think it does confirm that physical games are backwards compatible. Where it would get a little bit tricky is like if they're going to extend that same thing for digital. But I mean, like, come on, like we just gotta at this point, right?
Yeah, I think they definitely have to, and if they don't, it just. I would be so disappointed. Not mad, disappointed. No,
Right.
I'd be mad too.
Yeah, I would also be mad. So before we started recording, we were talking about like the best-selling games on Switch and just sort of marveling at the high numbers that both Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Animal Crossing had sold. But in going through the top 10, Breath of the Wild is on there, which launched simultaneously on the Wii U. But New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe and like in fairness, Mario Kart 8 are both also originally Wii U games that they not only could they resell it on Switch, but they sort of had to because there was no backwards compatibility. They won't have that option going into this next generation if it's going to be back compat, right?
I wouldn't think they would. Yeah, I would be very surprised to see those titles be resold as like a Switch 2 title.
Right, or even like an analogous thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously there were a bunch of games that came out on Wii U that would then become like their own hits on Switch several years later. And it's just like, that's not that same like generation to generation like revival can't be a thing if it's going to be backwards compatible.
Yes.
But like, look, they still got a ton of GameCube games that they haven't put out. A bunch of Wii games. Like, there are other parts of their own history that they could recent history that they could mine for big revivals on Switch 2.
People are hungry for it too.
They're hungry for it.
There's titles that people wanted since the Switch was released that are just we haven't heard a peep about.
Metroid Prime 2.
Where is it?
Metroid Prime 3.
I don't see it.
Metroid Prime Hunters.
I can't see anything.
Metroid Prime Pinball.
Oh, so we're back on the Metroid Prime of it all.
Hey man, someday we will get that cursed Metroid Prime trilogy.
I can't wait.
Just cruising down some more of these bullet points. The dock still has a USB-C port and will also support 4K image output, which let's talk about 4K image output for a second. Is that just like standard image output for USB-C, or is this something Nintendo's actually targeting with their new hardware?
I mean, the pessimist in me thinks that would be very surprising if this thing has that capability.
Right?
But if it does, then that's...
Well, then we're cooking with gas.
We really are.
But I mean, we're cooking with gas, but like, I don't know. You know me, Connor. I always like that Nintendo is developing games for a less powerful system because it means that they don't have to waste a ton of time rendering fruit at a fruit cart that you're going to have to see in minute detail from 360 degrees. That like they can get away with things being like putting less time into insignificant stuff because the thing can't render it anyway.
I wonder if there is like a world where yes, they do have 4K output, but the games that they are still making they're still in similar Nintendo friendly art styles.
Yeah.
But they just will look even crisper. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
No. And gosh, seeing some Switch games upscaled to 4K they probably look pretty rough too.
They probably look silly. Yeah. The 4K is still sort of confounding to me. Next bullet point here. The new kickstand also has a damping bracket on the back for improved angle adjustment, which sort of feels like the OLED and its kickstand, but maybe an even more robust kickstand. Who knows?
Could be.
And then the screen is bigger, up to 8 inches, and a resolution upgraded to 1080p. For comparison, the vanilla Switch has a 6.2-inch screen, and the Switch OLED has a 7-inch screen. I found it to be the move from the Switch to the Switch OLED felt significant to me in screen size, and this is a bigger jump than that.
I think it's going to feel quite large.
I think it's Connor. I think you're right.
Yep.
But do you need an 8-inch screen on your Switch?
I don't. I don't.
Do you play much handheld, or are you mostly a TV boy?
I've been playing, I think, historically mostly TV, but I play handheld enough to where I like using it. But 8 inches, I don't know if that would make a big difference for me.
Like, when does it get too big?
Yeah. 9?
Like 30?
30 might be too
30
big.
might be too big. Can you imagine?
Think about the size of that dock.
Oh, the dock would be huge.
Yeah.
The dock's the size of your TV at that point. Okay, well, so that's what we know about the Switch 2. It's not anything that we actually know. Any greater conclusions to draw from those rumors?
No. It's just interesting to have another round of them, and I got my ears open for the next bit.
But not on the ground.
Not on the ground.
They're just near the ground.
Always some distance between my ear and the ground.
Last week saw a new trailer for Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door being released by Nintendo, and some outlets have gotten to do hands-on previews. Connor, you're excited for The Thousand-Year Door, yeah?
I am, so much so that I didn't think I needed this game because I own a GameCube copy.
And played it pretty recently, right?
Recently enough, 4 years ago. And that's in that recent
yeah,
ballpark.
Absolutely. For an RPG, yes.
Yes. But the more I see from this game, the more, and how great it looks, the more I don't know if I'll pick it up on launch day, but I want it.
Yeah. It seems to me like most of the improvements are just in the presentation. Like, it is just so graphically sharp, and like the lighting all seems really exciting and good. But here are some other just little bits of quality of life improvements that people have been calling out in the previews. So there's a nostalgic tunes badge that you can equip to hear the original music instead of the remix music, which is cool. There's a new partner ring that allows you to easily quickly swap out party members instead of like going into the menu and doing that, which is nice. There's a gameplay hint system from Goombella that you can access at any time, not just in battles. There's more stuff in the sound and art galleries, and there are new NPCs that help guide you and give you tips and stuff. So like new characters in the game, it sounds like.
Great stuff. I definitely seen this. All looks great to me. I'm especially excited about just being able to swap back to that old music. I could see myself turning it on and off just to hear the subtle differences.
What do you make about putting it on a badge so that you have to like use one of your badge spaces for it?
I saw a little bit of information. According to this finding, that it's a badge that costs 0 badge points.
Oh, great.
Yeah, essentially and I think a couple of the aesthetic ones in the original game did cost like 1, but this costs 0, I believe.
That's nice. That's nice.
I've just seen some complaints about some changes that have been made from these hands-on previews. Have you seen anything about this?
I mean, I've seen changes where there's some Goombas that like catcall a lady, and they took that out.
There's just a little bit of censoring. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Yeah.
Because maybe it doesn't mean much to me, but I just know that there are some light changes that not everyone is super thrilled about.
Yeah, I mean, for my money, if they want to change something for release in 2024, I get it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
The game originally came out in the early 2000s, and like, yeah, it was just a different time.
Yeah.
So like, you put different stuff in games than you would feel comfortable having in a game right now, and like also just knowing that like a game on Switch has the potential to reach so many more hands than something that was released on GameCube 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. Don't begrudge them anything.
Totally.
Like, is there like some compelling, awesome, edgy thing that they were doing in the original Paper Mario Thousand Year Door?
That's actually what it was known for.
They're gonna like sand it off and be like, oh man, this thing used to be like Fight Club, and now
look what they've done to my boy.
Look what they've done to my boy. That was the worst possible impression I could have.
Mine was worse than yours.
They were both bad.
Yeah. I saw you sort of.
I did the hand.
Yes,
yeah, the Italian hand.
But no, I'm excited for this game. Is this next Friday?
I think it's a little bit later in the month. Connor, let's look it up. I think it's important for us
Obviously,
to know.
Luminous Ocean is this week.
Right. That's right. 1,000 Year Door on Switch.
My guess was Friday the 12th, but I could be wrong.
The 23rd.
23rd.
You are? No. Yes. 23rd. I'm correct.
Interesting. Is that like a Tuesday?
Is it a Tuesday?
Because I think. Oh no, my days are off.
Connor, don't get your days off.
Gosh, my days are so off.
Get your days back on.
It might be a Thursday.
Thursday or a Friday. Or look, we don't always have all the answers. One more quick news story, and then Connor, we got to get you out of here. A Xenoblade Chronicles 3 art book that was recently released in Japan may have some insights about the studio's priorities moving forward regarding character design. Xenoblade executive producer Tetsuya Takahashi said this in an interview, which is translated here by Nintendo Everything. Quote, "When we say we value expressions, we've always considered them to be important and would like to treat them even more importantly in the future. That is to say, we touched upon video game grammar earlier in the interview, but there are some scenes with mundane conversations, right? If it was a 3-minute conversation, one would get fed up with it if it were written in video game grammar. You might mash the button, hoping you'd get to progress. However, when you're watching a live-action movie, even if a scene is about 5 minutes long, as long as the actors' performances and chemistry work, even if there's no music or special effects, one would end up watching it all the same. The difference there might be a choice of words or the power of the lines, but the most important part is the expressions. A lot of actors can speak using their eyes alone, and those things can fill the gap to prevent people from getting bored in live-action media. But for games, we can't reach that level of expressiveness yet. That's why we need to focus on that more in the future. It's as an extreme example, if we were to make a 10-minute long scene, we'd want to make something that can stand on just the verbal exchanges without music or effects, and that's the goal we're looking to aim for." So Xenoblade Chronicles as a series has a lot of those long scenes, right? And a lot of fairly non-emotive faces. One of the hurdles for me playing those games and like trying to get into them, and I think it's interesting that they're like, this is something that we need to tackle.
It's so helpful having you read through that again after I read through it earlier, because earlier I was like, what the heck is this guy talking about? But that makes a lot more sense considering you've even touched one of these games.
Yeah.
Yes. And I haven't.
What's interesting is like, he says, we've not reached that level of expressiveness yet. It's like, yeah, but it has been reached. Like other developers definitely do it kind of all the time.
Yeah, kind of their whole thing.
It's kind of, like talk to Naughty Dog. Like they do it. They know how to do it. Or your precious Alan Wake 2. I don't know why I put attitude on that. I'm sorry.
That's how I feel about it, and I love when that happens.
But that it's just so that's interesting. The other interesting thing here to me is that he's mentioning this video game grammar, and I believe he's referring to like the way that you write for a video game is like just different than the way you would write for like live action film, and like I just wonder why that, because that's a complaint that I have about a lot of RPGs, right? Is that I'm like, why are you wasting time writing something this way? There's too much dialogue here that's not saying anything.
Yes.
And like any other medium would be forced to be more subtle and more economical with their words, except for maybe me on a podcast where I just took 2 minutes to explain that. But like him verbalizing like this is video game grammar. This is how we have to write in these spaces. It just makes me wonder, like, well, wait, why?
Yeah.
Do we always have to be writing in that way?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like for games in a lot of other disciplines, like design for sure, you value like clarity over anything else because like someone needs to interact with it in the right way. But like, is writing just following that same basic principle? Like, Connor, you have some experience in writing on games.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on like the grammar you use in game writing?
I think the word grammar is throwing me off, but it could be more. What I was drawing from it is that maybe to some of your point, it could be a little more about just knowing like the most vital stuff you need to get to the gamer, whether it's like important information or whatnot, especially if they're talking about a cutscene, and prioritizing that first and foremost. Knowing that like it's and knowing what they have seen before too, because one of the challenges of writing games is you can't always control.
Yeah.
Exactly, they're non-linear. You can't control when your player interacts with something. You can't control if they even read the thing that they interact with.
Right.
So there, I think, are more hurdles like that maybe that's what he's getting out of it.
Well, interesting stuff. Connor, let's get out of the news. All right, Connor, thank you so much for doing this news episode with me.
Hey, thank you for having me, 2 or 3 time news participant Conner McCabe. This is a joy as always, Patrick.
Is there? I know we have plugged a fair number of your projects already here, but is there anything else you would like to plug on your way out?
Nothing additionally. Check out Call Me by Your Game wherever you get your podcast. I'm on the Discord as Cons too. If anyone's ever like, oh, that's who Connor is.
Oh, that's who Connor is.
But nothing really else.
This week on the pod is that the episode of Top 10 Games with the Super Gamer Boys.
That will be the following week. I have a great episode with another video game developer, Mo, and they brought on Katamari Damacy.
Oh.
So it should be a lot of fun. I think it's a wonderful episode.
Well, check all of that out, and you can find Connor streaming at
twitch.tv/consiscool69.
That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Join the Discord, email us for an invitation. I will let you in. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Conner McCabe, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.